PRC ruled against El Paso Electric, and the Supreme Court upheld the broadcast.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I did see that, but I didn't. They didn't put the name. I didn't put them together. Okay. Created short files.
Wasn't mentioned.
Trash.
But that's the kind of stuff they want. They want to know,
That's
you know,
what they want to do.
yeah.
I'm
And
telling them what I would do. If I was-
yeah, no, and that's what I forwarded them, the suggestions, and I just said, hey, these are some ideas from the mayor.
I don't mean to be
Yeah.
critical. I mean,
No, I mean, and, but that's what they want right now is they want some direction on, you know, where do you as the mayor see things going? And, you know. and now-
That's what we should do.
yeah, no, I
Because otherwise we get into the debate. You
big in
haven't
that spirit.
done it yet.
So I
Have the paperwork on them.
So I don't
Push it.
think that guy. The 7 days.
You know, try and help them over there.
Yes, I know. Well, it's so funny because when
Yeah.
they first sent me the draft, I was like, oh, the formatting's all messed up. And then they didn't fix it. And I was like, well, go ahead and send it.
I know, it's like something.
But it was bothering me. I was like, there's places where the kerning of the letters are all squished together.
know.
And then I'm like, oh my gosh. What is that?
Yeah, but
I
if
sure about that.
those other ones, we don't have the paperwork on those done, so we'll just, they want to come
We
back.
can do it during
buy-
my-
I mean,
Yep.
The money will be there. Okay.
Yeah, good. That's not a great way to start the meeting. Usually that's how I finish the meetings.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's dead more to it. So anyway.
Well, good. How's your daughter? Yeah, she's doing okay. She's on, yeah, she's.
Did you notice?
climbing up a little bit.
That
Yeah. Like it.
that was Councilor Pat. Yes.
Yeah.
And your hair looks great.
Good evening. Hi, Fred Hashimoto, Mayor of Corrales. Want to call this meeting of the governing body to order on May 12th, 2026. Please turn yourselves off or on silent and stand and repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank Councilor Burkett for a picture up there.
The short-term fix, hopefully. Hopefully that'll be a real one that shows up.
Thank you.
That was for you.
Anyway, roll call. Councilor Mira,
Present.
Councilor Woolman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Alsabrook is right here. Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Fine, motion passes. Next item is the administrator's report. Melanie?
Thank you, Mayor. Microphones on? Maybe turn the volume up a little bit. Okay. Anything?
Hello.
That's worse.
Yeah. Is that good? Hello.
Okay, well, that was working. I'll try and speak loudly then. So I just wanted to start tonight off on a moment of gratitude. I love our village. When I was driving in tonight, I was just driving along looking at the beautiful mountains and just thinking of how lucky I am to live in such a beautiful place. And, you know, the mayor brought up at our staff meeting this afternoon that unfortunately New Mexico is #1 in the nation for property crimes and #2 in the nation for
Violent crime.
violent crimes. But we live in a little bubble. And, you know, thanks to like our police chief and his staff and our fire chief and his staff, we have the opportunity to live in a place that's actually very safe, and they work every day to keep us that way. So thank you to you, and thank you to all of our department heads and staff members. that you'll see our budget tonight with their requests for funding the departments for the next year, but they all do such a great job for the village. So I just wanted to start tonight off on a positive note. I know it's so easy to look at the news every day and just feel so down and really get into that mindset of being just, everything is horrible, but it's not. We actually live in a really great place. And if we can all just remember to treat each other with kindness and remember the golden rule, the preschool teacher in me will say, treat others how you want to be treated. So I just wanted to start off the meeting with that. And I only have one update for tonight, and that is under our questionnaire to the assessors. 2 of the candidates have responded. We have a response from Jared Prairie and from, yes, Lawrence Grego. Thank you. So we do have 2 of the 3 that responded to our questionnaire. Those answers are on the village website. So if you go to the village website, go to the elections tab and go all the way to the bottom of the page. And then their answers are as saved as documents on there. So you can see kind of what they have to say. And then the voter guide from the League of Women Voters is at the very top. So you can get some information on candidates there as well. So
Thank you.
With that, if anybody has any questions?
Counselor Waldman?
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing this is May 12th, question about the CAT area.
Yes.
So 3 questions. Who was the contract? How much is the contract for? And what are the start and completion dates?
So the second quote that we got, we realized last week there was a portion that wasn't quoted. So they have to come back out today to add the some updated flooring. So hopefully we'll have that answer tomorrow or the next day. But it does look like, and I forgot to write down his name. Tanya, do you remember the name of the second contractor that we've?
CNM. The consultants company. Oh. Right.
I think that is.
Yes, he's a local contractor just starting his own business. So it's somebody we haven't worked with before, but it looks like we'll likely go with his quote. It is a little bit lower than the original quote.
Is he on the list?
No, but because of getting quotes, we're okay.
Multiple, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And is he available to start soon?
I believe so.
Good.
So yeah, so we'll have a start date. I'll definitely have that for you at the next meeting. But yeah, we're just right there.
Okay, great.
Counselor Knight?
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, a couple people have asked me about this. Has any of our phone companies like AT&T or Verizon asked the village to put up more towers so the connections would be better?
Not that I am aware of.
Or at least maybe rent more space on those towers?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but I suppose we could try and reach out to them and see if there's anything they could do.
Yeah, I have a couple people in different areas of the village mentioned to me that they had really bad cell phone
Yes.
reception and internet reception.
Mhm.
So would we do that, or does the company contact us?
Yeah, I believe usually the company contacts us because they kind of take a look at their coverage maps.
Uh-huh.
But it probably couldn't hurt for us to reach out and see. So it's something we can look into and see if we
Thank
can
you.
find something.
That would be great. Thank you. I
No, we'll
appreciate
see what
that.
we
And I'm
can do.
sure the people that can't get their phone to work would
Yeah.
appreciate that
Yeah.
too.
So I'm not making any promises, but I will look into it. See what we can do.
Thank you.
They also pay call and play.
They what?
Counselor Murray?
Thank you. I hate to go from the positive down to the bottom a little bit, but last month, one of our former counselors passed away, Melanie Solar. And so anyway, it's sad to lose one of the gang, but I think she did a lot of good work. And my understanding is that there will be no memorial that will happen over in, is it Norway? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because she was a pillar in the community and she did a lot of work for the village as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments for our administrator? Okay, well, moving right along is the Corralenos Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Mandy?
Old Church Road, next to the property of 744 Old Church Road, which has which is still open, but it was supposed to have completely cleaned up by 31st of March. And unfortunately, they are bringing more stuff in as we talk. And so I think that, well, let me just give you some examples. There's a 55 gallon industrial drum that has been brought in. We don't know if it has anything inside or not. There are 5 or 6 foot long metal pipes. They are erecting a carport 36 feet by 12 feet by 8 feet with a roof that has a permit. It has a generator thing in it. They, to that end, you all had Simon from Kennedy's own director come in, had a pretty good report saying they had done a great job. Unfortunately, when we read that report, it appeared and the photographs, it's very different from what we see. It was like one side that was cleaned out photographs of still has piles with covers on them, and so it has not been. May I give you an example of?
And you might want to just pause so you get the attention you deserve while they're messing with the AV stuff. Sorry. You don't want to compete with that. Zoom. If we can't be on the speaker, then the people on Zoom can't.
Two, three, if I come.
I have one of those karaoke speakers at home. Wait. That's pretty tough. Yeah. Good distance. Ah, right. Seriously.
Melanie? If the other phone mics work, she can use, one of our mics.
I don't know if any of the mics.
Test 1, 2, test.
This isn't.
Oh, this one's out.
We're all dead.
Go to Noble. I don't care.
I can speak loudly. I try.
On Moody's bond rating. How the hell?
Is it your mic? Are your mics working?
think any of them will work. Full commission. Yeah, okay, we're just going to have to speak loudly.
And take no old fashioned notes, right?
Let's have it quiet, please. Go ahead, Pam.
I live at 942 Old Church Road next to the
Old Church Road, which is the property that had the claim and lien against it. And it was supposed to be a deadline of March 31st. And planning and zoning went through and some photographs, unfortunately not a video, was taken, and the photographs did not really reveal the true site and what is still left on the site and what is also continuing to come onto the site. Some of the new things are a 55-gallon industrial drum. We don't know what's in it. 5 and 6 foot long metal pipes. There's a carport newly constructed, 36 feet by 12 feet by 8 feet with no permit. There's a generator running. They are allegedly using it to repair cars. Speaking of cars, in the photographs that were presented to all of you showing the property all cleaned up and pristine, there were 2 license plates that were current and active. One was attached to a piece of wood and one was laying on a piece of fabric. They weren't even on cars. So I feel like you're being hoodwinked a little bit. There are dump trucks coming in. On April 28th, there was a dump truck that arrived, not a pickup truck. We're used to those coming back and forth, and they are continuing to come in. Full-fledged dump trucks with metal so high it was over the edge of the dump truck, came in at 8:30. They were done unloading at 10:30 at night, 8:30 at night till 10:30 at night. The next day, 4 more loads of that same red and white dump truck brought more metal stuff from who knows where to the property. And what it's becoming clear to all of us in the neighborhood is that this has been and most likely intends to be an ongoing metal scrapyard. We see truckloads come in and truckloads go out. So it seems to me, and it's very profitable, by the way. Someone in my family on my husband's side had a scrapyard. It was extraordinarily successful financially. So I think that's how they earn their income. We don't have a problem with that. The problem we have is this is zoned residential. This is not to be a commercial junkyard. And it was peaceful for a while until they got the letter saying, ollie ollie income free, we are all, looks great now. Then all of a sudden the trucks are going back and forth every day, and it's like living next to a construction site all the time. It's just not what should be in a neighborhood. And I'm not just the only one. There's 7 or 8 of us that are surrounding this part of the property. So I don't know what the answer is. I think Lori, when she gets back, was talking about going through and doing a video of the property so you can again see what's really happening. For instance, drums, you know, those big things that they put in the ground for pipes, as big as me, those are now coming on the property. So they must be very valuable. So the clean and lean has not been finished, as Amy will address, and Jerry will address other items that are coming onto the property. And we seek and ask humbly for your help. Thank you. Dennis is the one who took the photographs. It's my understanding. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I know Lori talked about going back in herself and taking a video. So you're welcome.
Lori and Dennis are in training this week at a zoning conference. So they'll be back on. Yeah, she's on Zoom but she's down in Silver City right now. So
I'm at 942 Old Church Road. I'm live right next to the 744 Old Church Road. I know that the Lean and Clean made us feel very hopeful. My biggest concern is the fire hazard with all of this illegal structures, just because I'm from Pacific Palisades and 8 of my friends lost their homes in one day, just gone. When I just watched, I see the piles of wood are still there. The piles of tires are still there. The tires, Chief Anthony said, will burn for days. So I got very excited about the Lean and Clean. And then I feel like we didn't come this far to go this far just to have the Dennis, you know, he said the video didn't work. It was of the blue sky. And that was the first time. And now it's only pictures of one side with no video. So I'm just begging, please don't remove the Lean and Clean until we get an actual video of 360 degrees of everything to see if it's still a fire hazard. Now there's an RV, a new RV there that's illegal. was not permitted. There's just that big structure that they built. Not only is it against the lien and clean, it's against, they don't have a permit for it. So it's just, I think they've been getting away with this for 30 years and living, wild, wild west cowboy life of not getting permits and doing what they want. But I just don't want it all to be gone in a day with a fire when our blood, sweat and tears are next door, our whole lives are next door. And my 2 small kids, there's a lot of violence and screaming because the son that was arrested twice is now moved from from Corrales Road to our property, living in an unzoned thing. There's human fecal matter because they don't have proper toilets, and apparently they have people, transients that come and work through the night to help them with the lien and clean, but there's no bathroom, so it's become, in my opinion, something that is not Corrales safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I live at 944 Old Church Road. I have 2 1-acre lots. They are common. My lot line is common with the Silva property. I bought my property in 1972, 48 years ago. We built a house, my wife and I did, and we've lived on our property next to them since 1988. 38 years. From day one, this leafy property has been nothing but junk and trash. And I keep wondering, how long are we going to put up with this? You'd think that 50 years would be long enough to get this mess straightened out. Felice is very skilled at just barely complying with the village long enough so he can be left alone for a while so he can continue what he's doing. So it's time to draw the line. On April 27, my wife and I personally witnessed a big truck coming onto the property and dumping structural steel, not rebar, structural steel right next to our fence. So I grew up in the South. This is called shuffling. This is where you put your stuff in this pile. You dig it up and get over there. That's what's been going on for 50 years. I have some pictures on my phone. They show the structural steel beams. They show the large corrugated pipe that you guys mentioned. There's this dilapidated, decrepit camper next to my fence. I've seen them on occasionally unlock it and throw black trash bags in there. I don't know what's actually in the bags, but I'm here to ask that we stop messing around, that we get on this, do something about it. I have here this letter from Dennis, a report. He says that summary, the property has reached substantial compliance. I'd like to ask you, what is substantial mean? It either is in compliance or it's not in compliance. So, my time up. Okay, we need to deal with this problem. I'll be dead in another 50 years. I hope this is straightened out before that. Thank you.
Brad Schurter, 47 Rincon Road. First, I'd like to share with you some of what I obtained from the Corrales.org web pages. That's Corrales.org, not hyphenated New Mexico. Reflecting on which I grew up with years before this place was incorporated. These are quotes. Though surrounded by suburban growth, Corrales residents continue to enjoy the rural character of the historic village. Second quote. The village of Corrales is a small, treasured oasis located within a large, fast-growing metropolitan area. And the third one. Today, Corrales is distinguished by its broad green pastures and orchards. Its rich historic and artistic character, and of course, the sounds and scents of roosters, cows, horses, and sheep. To cross the border into Corrales is to step into another time and place where the stresses of 21st century life give way to the grace and pace of another era. And now, what we are faced with is a bunch of carpetbaggers that waltzed into town to flout our laws with impunity while creating a raucous spectacle of amplified noise along with screeching and yelling partiers. A large group of us had had enough and helped elect a new mayor by a landslide to supersede the lawless administration before him. Sadly, the lawlessness continues, and the admonition that new ordinances are in the works, with the admonition that new ordinances are in the works. If somebody were to break the law witnessed by the police, such as speeding or any number of violations of such import or greater, you don't think for a minute that the officer would tell the offender that a new law is coming, so I won't ticket you or arrest you under current law. No, I think not. Thank you.
Mandy?
That's going to be hard to follow. I'm Beth Walter Newhouse. I live at 415 Camino de la Tierra, and I'm here. Can you guys hear me? No? Okay. First, hello, thank you. I'm here because I wanted to have a moment of gratitude. I'm here from the Corrales Society of Artists. I'm the president, and I just wanted to thank the village and the Lodgers Tax Board. And, you know, once I got up here, my brain actually decided to not remember what I wanted to say. But I just wanted to thank everyone because we had a really great weekend, and the tour was really great. And I think, you know, I wanted to thank Corrales and the Coraleños as well, because everybody showed up. So also, speaking of, this is not related to that at all, but I live on Camino de la Tierra, and the other day somebody was getting a ticket on my street. And so I wanted to say thank you to the police, because our speed limit on the road is 15 miles an hour and people are always going like 30 or 40 and, you know, running over wildlife and stuff. So anyway, thank you for two different things. All right, thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bob Corrales. I'd like to start off by admitting that I missed Ralph Martinez's services yesterday or Sunday. Ralph was a great friend. I've known him for 50 years, 50 plus years, and he'll be sorely missed. He was good for the village. Okay. Administrator's report. No place does it give your name. Just put your name on everybody else's name is on here. There's a ton of, your name's not. Let's put. Okay, third question. There's a no loitering sign right here in public property. Constitutionally, I don't think you can have no loitering on a public property everybody has the right to assemble and you can have one person assemble. So I think we need to look into that no loitering sign. I think it's illegal. And I'm not here to win friends or influence enemies. Tesuque Stucco has been here as the topic of discussion for quite some time. I don't know them. I've seen them in the meetings. But they seem to really care. They seem to be trying to help whatever they can do. I hope they're getting help from the village to try to help resolve their problems. We don't want to be anti-everything. If we are anti-everything, I've got a 200-year-old house. Let's tear down all the other houses that aren't 200 years old. You can't. Let's work with Tesuque, see if we can work them out. And I agree with Melanie. Corrales is a marvelous place to live. When I first started coming here, there was no stop sign. It was when we had a yield sign. We had a Y, and you could take the Y and go Corrales Road to 4th Street because it didn't go to 2nd Street, or you could take the Y and come to Corrales. That was your choice, but it was a yield sign. That's all it was. We have outpriced everybody in this village. If you don't inherit property from your parents, you have to be a millionaire to move here. You look at the declining rate of the school, of the public school children. I don't know how any of these young people can afford to come to Corrales. It's outrageous. And when we get back to the assessor, we're paying taxes on unachieved money, and it's just everything's wrong about the whole thing. But we live here in Corrales. Got to get along with Corrales. We got to. I watched the 5K race this weekend. It was a ton of people. The parking lots are plumb full, and I thank you for the parking lots. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak. I think I got a pretty loud voice. Can you hear me back there? There's so many things coming up here in Corrales because of far and wide advertisement to come visit Corrales. The first time I got up here to speak many years ago, I asked a question to people in here on Zoom and just to the community. My question was something like, why did you choose to move or stay here in Corrales? The answers from some were probably ruralness, the night skies, the quietness, the slow pace, kind of like the comp plan says. It sure has changed to me. I drove from Ex Novo to the little store, as that is what we used to call it from a long time ago. If you're not aware of it's about 1.2 miles from Ex Novo to the little store. In that very short 1.2 miles that is called residential commercial area, where residents still live right on Corrales Road, where they can't or choose not to move from there. There are 12 liquor establishments now, maybe soon to be 13 or 14. There will be a liquor license hearing on May 19th for one on the and one for West Meadowlark, where it is mentioned at the last planning and zoning area that it's one of the, no, let me go back. Liquor store establishments, maybe soon to be 13 or 14. There will be a liquor license hearing on May 19th for one on West Meadowlark, for it was mentioned at the last P&Z meeting that that area was one of the worst crossroads in Corrales for another liquor license. There may also be another one asked for off Coronado, where 1 or 2 restaurants and shops will be built. Some of the businesses on Corrales Road are good neighbors, which all should be. There are only around 8,500 people in the village. Some people have no idea what's going on in the residential commercial part of Corrales because they live up in the Lomas and use Loma Larga. Corrales is in the books as the safest town and the horse capital of New Mexico. The question I ask now is, will it change to the town with the most liquor establishments in a mile, or the most DUIs from out-of-towners? Checkpoints which should be used again. These are real questions for Corraleños because it doesn't feel safe in so many levels. People can't ride horses, bikes, or even walk to the little store, the library, because there's so many advertisements for everyone to come to Corrales for one reason or another. The advertisements are not just local. They go all around the state. People feel like Corrales is becoming an Albuquerque, Taos, or even though we are a lot smaller and can't handle this traffic safely anymore. This is not what most people have stayed or moved here in the first place. The village of Corrales and is mine and many others, Cadencia. We need to not have another liquor establishment or any more because there's 14 of them, 12 of them for sure. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sabine Schurter, 47 Rincon Road. At a previous council meeting, villagers requested that videos of P&Z Commission meetings be posted on the village website and on YouTube for villagers to view at all times. At this point, the village administration is concerned about creating issues with the P&Z appeal process and has chosen not to post P&Z meeting recordings on YouTube. The current practice is that P&Z meeting videos will be destroyed after the minutes have been created by the P&Z administrator. Our concern is that the current interpretation of the quasi-judicial process regarding appeals to P&Z decisions may unintentionally limit transparency and public confidence in planning and zoning proceedings. While protecting the integrity of appeals is important, relying solely on written minutes as an official record creates concern because minutes are inherently summarized and subject to interpretation. Important context, tone, testimony, and deliberation may not be fully reflected in abbreviated written records. A better balance can be achieved between due process and transparency. Many communities, and I'm talking about cities like Philadelphia, San Francisco, Salt Lake City, our neighbors here in the Middle Rio Grande Valley, they successfully post recordings of quasi-judicial meetings while requiring elected officials involved in future appeals to refrain from independently reviewing those recordings outside the formal process, or they're just stating that these recordings are not part of the official record. If council members cannot be trusted to follow these standards, then the greater governance issue is not public access to records, but confidence in the decision-making process itself. And I think that would be offensive to our governing body, because I think we can trust you. Public access to records strengthens civic engagement, improves understanding of land use decisions, and preserves a more complete historical record of community testimony. It also reduces concerns that the official narrative is filtered exclusively through summarized staff minutes. This issue deserves further discussion to determine whether the village can adopt procedures that both protect the legal appeal process and provide residents fuller access to the proceedings that shape our community. Thank you.
Eric Johnson, 3871 Corrales Road. Everyone is doing his or her best at all times. This, of course, includes you. I was a trained Montessori teacher and SPED teacher for 5 months old, 20-month-old, the 5-year-old. But this isn't a place for that. It's a very serious place, Mayor Hashimoto, and I do appreciate the fact that you put your face on the copy machine, and we do have your visits here now. So I appreciate that a lot. I'm going to start with water and kind of go to P&Z and how you resolve open items. The $2.3 million promised for secondary junior water rights. We've not had a report back yet in this meeting. We know that we can borrow some from Bernalillo for 1/10 the cost. That's all true. Anybody disagree with that? Okay. So there's a breach of fiduciary duty for paying 10 times what something is worth. But this comes about because this month what happened? North Corrales just got cut off from the water system. Every single junior water right will be cut off from the water system if you buy it. I'm gonna tell you right now, Mayor, the breach of fiduciary duty for this board to continue. Okay, now, next one, parking. Okay, while we have space from the village to provide parking for events, you run the risk of liability, and you haven't covered that. You're not a business. That lot, the towing sign, people need to be covered. Ex Novo doesn't get free land because they know somebody. They need to be towed. Until this village has liability insurance for a parking lot, lease it properly, shut it down. Anybody disagree? Because I would hate for you to waste another $2.3 million because you're making friends with Ex Novo and the previous Fahey administrator. So Mayor Hashimoto, I put it to you. We're not happy. And why isn't this village at 25 miles an hour everywhere? There's no excuse for that on Corrales Road. You go down Loma Larga, oh my God, you got the nicest, smoothest highway. I got a 20-foot Buick Road Mess. I can go 25 miles an hour, just cruise right over a speed bump. Why don't we put a few of those out in front here? People are doing 50. And semis are doing 40. You got to grow up. This is an urban public district. It's no longer a village, whether you like it or not. And if you don't do that now, and the first kid gets run over, I'm going to point at every single one of you, and I don't like pointing at people, so I apologize for that. But if a kid died, and you're in those seats, I guarantee none of you will be in that seat the next election. So thank you.
Next session, Councilors Forum. Session is for informational purposes only, after discussion. Paid to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that will not be addressed the agenda during business session. What the mayor's message was prepared, the agenda and, council's packet.
Maybe like a flag like they do for voting. a little wiggly guy.
Councilor, Blake?
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. I can include that in the next administrator's report.
Any other conflicts?
No, every village property is already on the list. So, in fact, we got an email yesterday reminding us to go in and double check our lists, make sure everything that we own is on our list with the New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund. It's now a self-service portal, so we can go in and add stuff at any time. It's much easier than it used to be. We used to have to fill out a form and fax it and then wait for them, and yeah. Everything. Yep. That's correct.
Right along. Consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? You accept it.
Yes, because we have a bar. Yeah.
Roll call vote. Council Mira. Council Goldman. Knight. Burkett. Council Murray. Motion passes. Item I, new business. Consideration action approval of bond sale ordinance 2603 authorizing the issuance and sale of CO bonds, aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1,600,000. To one, study plan, design, develop, construct, reconstruct, rehabilitate, renovate, expand, furnish, landscape, and otherwise improve and to acquire property under the rights of way and equipment for acquired upon the facility. Acquire facility staff. And two, to study, plan, design, develop, construct, reconstruct, rehabilitate, and build, expand, furnish, landscape, enhance, and otherwise improve and to acquire property under the rights of way and equipment for road and flood control facilities, the road and flood control facilities found within the village.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Nick from Steeple Public Finance. This is Dan from Taft, Bond Counsel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about an ordinance to authorize the sale of the general obligation bonds. This $1.6 million is the remaining authorization from the 2023 general election. Those two projects that the mayor mentioned are the original projects that the voters approved back in 2023. So the plan is to continue issuing those through the New Mexico Finance Authority. After talking with Melanie and staff, we've evaluated different options through the Finance Authority, through a bank, as well as a public market sale like we did last time. We ended up deciding on the New Mexico Finance Authority because they have lower cost of issuance and are giving you the full flexibility to spend that bond proceeds on those projects as you see fit, based off your ICP plan and other things like that. So tonight, again, you're going to be just approving the ordinance for that sale. In front of you is a brief summary for the bond sale. We did go to the New Mexico Finance Authority at their April board meeting for approval on the projects. It was approved by the NMFA Council, and then we were able to lock in interest rates last week. The interest rates that we got were about 0.15, 0.2 basis points lower than we had originally predicted when we were here in March. So it was a very good overall interest rate from the New Mexico Finance Authority. You can see probably halfway through the packet that I gave you, page 4 and 5 give you what the overall interest rate is. It is an 8-year bond payment that has a true interest cost of 2.79%. The plan is to maintain the current tax rate for the next 2 years, so there would be no tax increase associated with issuing these bonds. And then the repayment schedule does give you the opportunity to go back to voters in 2027 for additional authorization, so you can continue working on those projects for the village if residents approve it. Sir.
Could you explain the graph on page 1 again? Seen the multiple times.
Yeah, page 1, that graph looks at the outstanding bonds as well as the new 2026 bond. The blue ones are the existing debt all piled together, and then the green is the proposed new one. That dotted line is the mill levy, so you can see there that the plan would maintain that current tax rate for the next 2 years, and then if voters approve a bond and you decide to issue it in the future, you could continue with that 2-year cycle like you've been doing, so you can continue working on projects throughout the village. Issuing bonds in 2028 means your first payment is in 29 when that drop off is. So it would give you the opportunity to continue funding projects without a tax increase. And then that plan there does assume that there is no increase in property values for the remainder of that now through 2034. We do that just to be on the safe side. If for some reason growth stops, we don't want tax rates to increase on residents. We do assume there'll be some growth, particularly here in Corrales, and so any increase in property values means that that tax line will either be a little bit lower, or you can potentially fund bigger or more projects that next go around.
Why did they call Series 2026 summer?
Because we were going to be closing on the bonds in June, which is the summer. So summer was just something we named. Series 2026 is the appropriate name. So, and then I'll turn it over to Dan briefly just to go through the legal document that I'll be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you is the ordinance which authorizes the issuance and sale of the general obligation bond to the Finance Authority. As we talked about the last time we were here, you passed the resolution for the application. That went through the Finance Authority process, was approved at their April meeting unanimously. And now we come here for the ordinance. And the ordinance does a few things. It authorizes and it ratifies your previous actions that you took at the last meeting. Section 2 walks through the parameters of what is contained in the bond sale. And so you have your authorization of 1.6 million, which is 800,000 for both the fire projects and the flood and road projects. It sets your maturities that state that they can't be past August 1 of 2034, and they won't. These bonds will not be, these bonds have a no redemption provision. That's typically a 10-year call. And since we're at 8 years, there's no redemption early on that. Your maximum interest rate can't exceed 4%. These come in, I think, at 2.79% based on the sale. The true interest cost can't exceed 5%. And we're within that parameter as well. So your ordinance and your sale all fall within the guideline. Section 7 authorizes the mayor and the village administrator. Section 18 actually authorizes the mayor and the village administrator to execute the documents that the Finance Authority requires as part of this transaction. And so the two documents that are part of your materials tonight are the bond purchase agreement and a capital projects escrow agreement. And I'll briefly explain what those are. So the bond purchase agreement is rather straightforward. It's the contract that the NMFA and the village enter into. It gives the Finance Authority comfort that in fact the village is going to go through and consummate this transaction. The Finance Authority will purchase the bonds. The capital projects escrow agreement is an agreement where once that happens, the money, the Finance Authority will deposit those funds into the escrow agreement. That escrow agreement is tied to, and this is part of the Finance Authority's public project revolving fund, and it's structured so where it's captured, it is subject to an indenture with the trustee. The trustee is the Bank of Albuquerque, BOKF. Those funds are held by the trustee, and then they're drawn by requisitions, and the requisitions have to be signed by both the village and the Finance Authority. So there's always a check and balance in the way those funds are drawn. There'll be a couple of draws at closing. There'll be a deposit of the 1.6 million into a project account. They will pull off the cost of issuance that'll go to pay the financial advisors and the legal fees, and then the remaining money goes into that escrow account. From there, those funds are then drawn on those requisitions for project costs, and they'll be broken down and be identified specifically from an audit perspective so that you see which costs are going towards roads, which costs are going towards fire. These are secured with ad valorem property taxes. The bond purchase agreement will be dated today, the date of the ordinance, but the closing will occur on June 26th. We will come back at your next meeting. There'll be a handful of documents that you two will sign. We'll get those signatures. We'll hold those until the 26th, at which point the other thing the bond purchase agreement does is it outlines various closing conditions that have to be met. Which opinion, legal opinions that have to be given by our firm as your counsel, by the Sutton Thayer and Brown firm as counsel to the finance authority, various tax documents that have to be executed that outline the transaction and the sale of the bonds that Mr. Kane outlined a minute ago. So we will come back to you. We don't have to do that in public meetings, so we'll just set time with you, Melanie, and we'll get those signatures probably beforehand. With that, I would stand for any questions and ask for approval of the ordinance. And the ordinance authorizes, like I said, the ordinance authorizes everything else to now come to take place. The signing, the documents to be prepared. Those documents are essentially final. We've updated the numbers with Steeple's figures, and so we're sitting good, looking good to close on it. So.
Well, I have a motion to approve the ordinance. Any discussion?
Cost of issuance that we have budgeted for is 72,500. Is Mr. Opperman mentioned that covers the fee for Steeple, Taft, and then there is also a contingency as well, which we don't expect to use at this point because numbers are finalized. Yeah, that total amount is going to be shown, I guess, on the second or third page, that first page of numbers that we have there. It shows the total debt service for the project. That is going to be $1,746,681.67. So that is the total interest on top of the principal payment that the village will be paying back.
Mayor, council. Well, we're hoping to get started with the design and then whatever construction we can do for 800,000. The fire substation, Station 3, which is at 2200 Loma Larga. Yep. This project's taken years and years, and in those years, the costs of materials and labor and everything's gone up. So we're gonna do our best. We're very thankful, but we're gonna do our best to get a functional little substation there at that location. Very good question. I honestly can't answer that. Just because of my dealings with our current projects with the Angel Tower and the water lines and stuff, getting contractors and materials and stuff, it's getting better. But I can't put any further guarantee. It's taking fire truck. If we were to order a fire truck, it could take 3 years to build. So, yeah. Thank you.
Great. Council Mayor, how do you vote? Richard, Council Bowman, Council Knight, Council Burkett, Mary, Council Bassett. Next item. Consideration action approval of remaining farmland preservation funding application.
Michael Cisco is here.
Michael Fisco. Hello, everyone. As you know, we had 5 projects that were rated for the bond funding for farmland preservation. The Farmland Commission prioritized those different projects 1 through 5. We had permission to move forward with 2 of those projects. Unfortunately, the second priority project dropped out. They decided not to move forward with the bond and the farmland funding. So now we're currently moving forward with the number 1 priority project, which is Trusolo Farms. We've started that. We have an option to purchase the easement in place. We're already doing a lot of due diligence on the project, ordering title, getting a appraisal set up. So that project's moving forward. So in light of the second priority project falling through, Melanie wanted me to reach out to the remaining 3 landowners to see if they were still interested in the farmland preservation funding. I did that, and all 3 landowners were interested in pursuing the funding. There's just a little bit of different challenges with each applicant, and I believe Melanie sent you summary of my notes on the correspondence with each of the landowners. So I guess at this point, we could get the question.
Do you want us to decide anything or?
I believe so, yeah.
What would you like us to decide?
Well, whether you would like to fund any one of the 3 remaining projects. I'm unsure.
Do you want the notes that they got so you can see?
No, yeah, I have my notes here. I guess I don't understand how much money is left, so I'm not sure how many you could fund if you did decide to fund more. So it's a matter of, whether you want to fund 1, 2, 3, all of them, or none of them. And if you fund none of them, then I'm assuming there would be an opportunity to reopen the process for new applications, and these 3 landowners are more than welcome, I assume, to apply again, if they wish. So I think that's the decision.
That's what they said.
Yeah, you have until June 2026, but then
Seven.
you can get a year extension. She has to do the extension, so we have till June 2027 with the extension. So after June of 2027, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, so they didn't respond to any of the questions that I had for them, confirming their interest in a few other items, but their main question was they wanted to know what the value of the easement was before they signed up. And I told them the valuation is part of the process. And that's not something that we could generate before they signed the option. Yeah, I had a gentleman call me about a week ago. He has 4 acres on the north side of Corrales. I believe one of the Farmland Commission members also knows a person with 3 or 4 acres on Corrales Road as well. And then the New Mexico Land Conservancy, the land trust that's doing the easement work with us, they've been talking to somebody over by the Boyd Farm, continuing that conservation on adjacent property on Toad Road. So those are the 3 that I've heard of. Yes, correct. Yeah, I mean, so my question, I guess, to you would be, what is the maximum amount that we have available? The full 2 million, or is there still, funds set aside for other purposes, other acquisitions? Okay. So the floor price, so the minimum, so the floor price on Tricello is set at 900,000. So if it's below that price, they don't have to go through a transaction. If it's above that price, then they have to sell it to them. So 900,000 is right where we're at on that one. And I'd set floor prices on the other ones. The original floor price on Tricello was $612,000, but the landowners wanted to raise it because they think the easement's going to be worth more than what I estimated it to be. They wanted to have a higher floor price. Yeah. Yes, 6 acres. Yeah. 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 And then, the other, so it's right around 200, I estimated about 200, I think 16,000 per acre for an easement in Corrales, with no development rights whatsoever. So that's kind of the, what I'm thinking about. So the other projects, you have 1 acre. So these 3 projects, I think, will total 5 acres. So you're talking about $1 million. That. If my estimates are correct. Yeah, if they're not, if it's higher than those, then yeah, you might run into a little bit of.
But we do have the costs of the appraisals to consider as well. So
Yeah, you have appraisals, you have the title insurance. Yeah, so there are costs associated with the transaction as well.
right, but right now the village is paying for it to begin with, and then
So at this point in time with the Tricello property, we're not asking them for the village. So closing costs, and transaction costs for each project would probably be around 3. So I don't think there's any negotiation. So the village has committed to paying 100% of the appraised easement value. So the appraisal sets the price, and that's the price. There's no negotiating once the appraisal. Oh, I believe so. I think, landowners interested in this know how much is available, and they kind of know how much their property's worth. And the easements are worth, a portion of that. So yeah, they have a general idea. Mhm. Yeah, I don't remember what they were either. But that 40,000, a portion of that is what's called a stewardship endowment. So they're responsible for making sure that the easement is enforced and that nobody subdivides it or builds a house on it or anything like that into perpetuity. So what they do is they take that $40,000 and invest it pretty modestly And then the earnings they take off that, they pay their staff to come out and monitor the property once a year. They pay attorneys if anything happens, any challenges to the easement. So it's a pretty, in my opinion, it's not that much money when you look at the perpetual nature of their responsibility. And that's only a portion of it. They're also asking for, probably around $10,000 to pay their staff to do the project, to actually review all the documents and do the baseline report and everything else that needs to do the project. So. Yeah. Yeah, but I think probably by mid-June we'll have it. Yeah. 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 I don't think that the Tricello appraisal is going to come in much higher than the floor price. So, that means you're probably going to have about $1 million after Tricello, or maybe more. Motion?
Do you want to reopen the process to new properties as well? Okay. So that should be part of your motion. Okay.
Second for that?
Yeah, the option sign. Yeah. Right. Not that I'm aware of. We can go through the things. I mean, he's done a couple things. The property is not listed anymore for lease. Yeah. Well, I would.
So are we amending the motion to be, we'll reopen the process to new properties, but all properties have to be ranked within 60 days from today?
Yeah, I was gonna say if we have options in place by September, we should be good. That'll give us about 9 months to complete the project. The biggest thing is gonna be if title comes back and there's issues on title. That usually takes a long time. Not too concerned about appraisals. The appraiser has capacity to finish an appraisal in a couple months, 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Oh, I'm saying if we have a signed option like we do on Tricello by September. So if we can get to that point, all the ranking and everything and choosing the project by September and putting it on our option, that should be plenty of time to finish it by. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, one of those property owners came into the village offices yesterday and we directed them to contact Sam Thompson as one of the co-chairs of that committee. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
We also need to post it publicly, correct?
To do what? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we never got a second on the, yeah, okay, okay. So first we have to vote on the amendment and then we'll go back to the original motion as amended, adding in the 60 days. Yeah. I mean, since we said that we were doing consideration, action, and approval of farmland applications, I don't think there's anything extra we need to do here. I think the motion is a valid motion. And I don't think council approval is needed in order to do that extension on the bond. That's an internal paperwork thing on a finance level, has nothing to do with council. So yeah, so we don't need that any vote on from you guys to push the money out to 27. We're fine there, but we do need you to decide how we're going to do the application process. Yeah. Yeah, so we need to do a vote on the amendment and then vote on it.
Discussion on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Vote. Vote carries the amendment. Going back to the original motion, amended, is there any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Vote, vote. Continuing on 50 days, open, and we come back and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not for that. You don't need a roll call vote for that. Only for a resolution or an ordinance. And also just for the public, the next farmland preservation meeting will be Thursday, May 21st at 2:00. We are meeting here in the council chambers so we can record it because members of the Land Conservancy will be coming in to answer questions about some of the processes. So normally they meet in the mornings in the community center, but the community center is closed for voting anyway. So we'll be meeting here. We will record it. We will post it on YouTube if there's any questions about the process. And it's an open meeting. Anybody can attend. So.
Moving along. Okay.
Eric Johnson, 3879 Corrales Road. First of all, there are no conditions on the water on my property. The water follows the property. I have 3 acre feet. Specifically says that I can water full. I'm offering up the funding. We're not. If you want to look at that second half acre, that's an option. What I really came here tonight to tell you is what's going on with my neighbor right next door. Y'all have approved 2 buildings, total of 11,700 square foot footprint, 20 foot high.
But that has nothing to do with the farmland
The
properties.
Land Conservancy, because it increases the value of property, which is mine. And so I'm gonna tell you right now that not following what you tried to do over the past year has cost you money. Even with the Carrillo's property that you have approved, all of the property in Corrales is skyrocketing. So keep putting this off just gives you less money to buy anything, whether or not it's our property or not. Okay, the other part about the Land Conservancy is that we have Mr. McKnight, who's the husband of Councilor Knight, Councilor Knight, her husband, is on that board, and I'd like to recuse her from any further discussion due to ex parte communication with her husband. What I'm trying to tell you is that ex parte communication means undue influence, and I'd like her to recuse herself or have this council take a motion to recuse her from any more discussions on the Conservation Conservancy. Because since that time, since we changed mayors, it hasn't moved forward. How long has this been going on, Michael? One property has moved forward. No one was told at the beginning that it would be reopened or it would take this long. This is incompetent. Let's straighten it up, okay? Thank you.
Resolution 26, 26 adopting the fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget. Okay.
Mayor, Administrator Romero, can everyone hear me? So it has, but anything that has been in the budget for 2024 and the previous fiscal year, the current fiscal year, and then the upcoming fiscal year for historical transparency will appear in. So they have been moved. They've all been barred. You approved the bar. Going through the budget, I did realize on one of the animal funds in the 262, the bar was done to create either the 24224. They've got 3 different funds now, but she did not do the cash transfer. So all of that will be done as soon as the final budget comes through. Let me wait for the emergency alert to stop. And the rest of our phones will go off after that, I'm sure. Counselor or Mayor, Council, 207 is a special fund set up through the fire department. Those funds are paid for and created and brought in from us going out to fires. Most of that money in there right now is still from California. So it allows the fire chief, we used our apparatus, we used our people, to have that fund for special reasons. One donation actually got put in there. We didn't catch it in time to move it out. So it's in there. So those are all, and that's how we track for FEMA deployments, in-state RMP deployments. We use that fund so we can track it, get reimbursed fully. And then of course our equipment gets funding. Because we spent money. And so that is cash in that fund. That is cash that we've brought in. There's no non-cash money in that fund. That would be 213, I'm sure. Page 20. Starts on page 25. So the state bond, you approved a bar. The state bond is actually going to go up. The state is a 3-year bond. So she'll supply us, and most of these will change again because like the county bond, she has to submit stuff to, as she starts getting her grant awards, we'll start putting the actual numbers in there, but she already, in 2025, one of her bonds was 182,000. That's good for 3 years of spending. And then we have that noted on our budget at this. Most of the bonds are over multiple years. So she was spending off her previous bond. This new bond came in. I called her and said, hey, you've overspent your bond. And she said, no, I haven't. She had not turned in the new bond to be put into the budget. So right this year, she was working off the old bond that expires and the new bond that started. She's already spent all of her old bond. So this new part of this new one goes, that's a 3-year bond. I think that's till 2029. Yeah. Yeah, and it just depends on how much they issue our bond, the county bond for the library. And Marion, if you're online, correct me. They divide out the county bond. They get an amount of money and then they divide it out and they let them know an allotment. And I don't think she's online, but I do know that's how they do it. And Marion's really good about keeping track of it, but we haven't been putting them in from the beginning. She's been tracking, and then we have to say, hey, now we're going to be really fiscally responsible and put the whole amount in. You spend what you spend, you carry over what's not spent. I don't know why. They've spent quite a bit of money on the lodger's tax. So I think was the lodger's tax bar was on this one. So they had spent more than they brought in and more than we had budgeted for. So that's another one we're being physically transparent with, that we brought all their cash that hadn't been previously budgeted up into the budget. They've spent over 20,000 this year, I think. We had 25 in cash. So lodger's tax is 240. Did I not fix it again? Sorry, and Councilor Murray or Councilor Waldman pointed it. I was doing this at midnight. the other
Well,
night.
you probably did, and it's saved on one of those weird
Oh,
versions.
yeah, we're having some really weird IT issues with OneDrive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was just operator error. I forgot to put in an extra zero, so thank you for pointing that out.
Lodger's tax. Oh, I did fix it on the total revenue though. That was, so it depends on who purchases. So when CAC comes and says they want lodger's tax fund, the village makes the PO. A lot of the stuff is supply. Their banners, those kind of things. And other stuff, if you just write the check and you give it to Music and Corrales or Corrales Society of Artists, it goes under other contractual services. Once you guys approve a budget, we wanted both line items to have funding. It is an internal process to balance it. It doesn't come back to the council as a bar. It is an internal process to move it from supply to contractual services, or maybe I'm trying to think of anything else they could use. If they say they needed to buy something for lodger's tax board, a computer, and they voted on it, that would be a non-cap. That's an internal process to move those monies. But you want to put something in each one, so it's not an empty budget line, because a lot of people will just pull out of the budget line they have money in, and it really should be pulled out of the budget line it should come out of. No, it goes to 360 or 316. It gets moved into, that's the revenue holding account. And then it goes out to a road account that Steve can use, and he has used it in the past. I think it's 316. And I can get you an answer for the administrator's report of where it gets transferred to, but it stays only for roads. That's the way it was set up years ago, and that's the way we keep it. Yes, sir.
You have to make a motion.
Motion on the motion? No. Second. Favor.
He was looking it up this afternoon. Were you able to get, I know he had contacted a couple of companies. He wanted a couple of different quotes for you. Did you hear back from any of those guys? Okay.
I'm saying.
Found some stuff online for our current speed sign, about $3,800. The signs, if we put them in. I found 30 by 30 flashing red stop signs. I don't remember the exact ones that you were thinking of, but these are the ones that are on the border. And I found those anywhere from 14 to 18. Yeah.
Well, and Tanya, don't we already have money in the budget for specifically for signs? But we can you know, tell Steve which ones to look into. Yeah.
Yes. Go.
Correct.
Have to look at the
242, 243. Hold on. So in this year's budget, now remind you, actually have to look at 262 as well. They had roughly 24,000 in Dennis Friend money. And I've got it, the transfer in, transfer out. So they've been spending the Dennis Friends money first. But like I said in the budget narrative, that 263, which is the animal control from council, let's say there's some disaster and they have to hope there's not, set up some sort of station and we need to buy some new fencing or something. That money is already set up and will be brought to you for the final budget. If they spend $500, we'll ask for a transfer in a 500. If they spend 1,000, a transfer in of 1,000, and that'll be adjusted. Right now, there is no transfer. Correct. Correct. Yeah. That's the grant that Counselor Waldman, or the MOU that Counselor Waldman got to build the cattery. They gave us the cash, so the 35,000 hasn't been spent, so it'll transfer over as of this moment to be 35,000. If by June 30th, they spent 10,000, then only 25,000 will be in next year's budget. This is budget, but it's also cash. So that can't go up. That can only go down based on how much we spend.
Yeah, that was just a one-time grant. And once it's spent on the cat remodel, it's spent. Yeah, I think we have 35 registered short-term rentals in the village. 2 more will be approved at the next P&Z meeting, possibly. I do know 2 of the short-term rentals are on long-term rents, and so they're not paying us any lodgers tax because they have long-term contracts with somebody. And then we have a couple that, you know, yeah. It is all self-reported, yes. I mean, that's part of what the host compliance software is supposed to help us do, the Granicus. But it can only give you an estimate if the person staying there leaves a review and then the owner reviews them back. That's the only way they can say, we think there was a stay for these dates. Actually, it has helped us find people that are operating short-term rentals without a license. Yeah. 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 No, it's something we have discussions on all the time. You know, how do we do this, and how, you know, you can't go to the taxation and revenue and ask for their taxes because it's not public record. Can we do that? I don't know if we can do that legally. I would love to. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, believe me, counselor, it's not an issue just for us. I mean, it's a conversation we have at clerks meetings all the time. VRBO doesn't actually pay it to the village. Mm-hmm. But that's the other thing. We've fought with short-term rental owners because they claim, well, no, it's being taken out by Airbnb or VRBO. Yep. And so we send them letters and tell them, you're in violation. It is not getting paid to the village. You have to collect it and pay it to us personally. And we have worked out a lot of that with a lot of the short-term rental owners. And they now understand that even though there are municipalities that and we've contacted, you know, Airbnb, VRBO to see if there's a way we can get set up with them to actually get those revenues if it's being automatically charged to the renter. But they don't have a process for that. You know, they have a process for signing up if you're the owner of the building, but not if you're the municipality collecting the taxes. So that's on the lodger's tax form that they're supposed to submit to us on a monthly basis. But if we have, you know, there was one where the person turned in zeros, and then I overheard her telling a story later on where she said, "Oh yeah, I had this wonderful German couple last week," and I was like, "But yeah, but you turned in zeros on your form." And she was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually on next month's report." So, it's a challenge, and we do our best to make sure that everybody's paying their fair share, but it is kind of limited on what we can enforce. So. Yes, we do. Let's see, we had Burkett made the motion and Murray seconded.
Before we vote, can I ask a question? Can we make the motion to approve with changing the 200,000 to 20 and adding the new fund for the $10,000 so we don't have to come back until final budget?
Well, no, we didn't have it, I mean, Counselor Burkett could, well, and I mean, Counselor Burkett could go ahead and say, I amend my motion to say, if, you know. Okay. Okay. And fixing the 200,000 in, was it lodger's tax? Yeah. Okay. 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 And this one does need a roll call vote because it is a resolution.
Roll call vote. Anthony, yes, sir. Goldman? Mike? That? Liz? Three. What's that? Judgment of this plan for Anderson property. You didn't sort of a new project, that's where historically what has happened is administration that was on the seat of the project, they would often get a site development plan made by an engineer. That's an architect. Discussion would happen with P&Z meeting for approval of the site development plan. But I think administration, I felt that council ought to be involved before it goes before P&Z. But this is what we're saying, is sketch for a possible plan for the Anderson property to be officially a parking lot. And this is done by engineer Billman. We have the charges for it. We're going to get paid if we move forward and say we want a site development. What we're doing, we're opening it up to council to decide to remove for a site development plan for Anderson lot to so in a way it involves the council and the public. So that's it.
And I did get some emails asking if parking lot meant that we were going to pave it. And I said, no, we are not going to pave Paradise and put up a parking lot. Parking lot will just be, yes, it'll just be crusher fines. So it will be ADA compliant. And as you can see on page is this in our 104 of the packet, the drawing done by Grolman is just very basic. The site development plan itself will cover the entire rec center property because it was all made into one piece of property. Couple of months ago, we went in and dropped the lot lines. So the site development plan itself will show the entire property, but we're only making improvements on the little, what was the Anderson section itself. And then Parks and Rec has asked if we could add a couple locations for possible food trucks. Our ordinance do allow for food trucks on municipal property. And Lynn has approached me a couple of times in the past about having a food truck there during the summertime when the pool's open. Maybe an ice cream truck for the kids, or, a food truck where parents could come and get food and have lunch at the park with their kids before the pool opens. But we have to show on the site development plan where those food trucks would be. So if you don't have a location set aside, you can't have a food truck on the property. So he's picked out a couple of spots. So the site development plan will show those locations for possible food trucks. And then it would be a competitive process where we would put out notice to all of the licensed food trucks in the village and say, hey, we're doing this. It'll be on a rotating basis. Our ordinances say you can't have the same food truck more than one time a week in any location. So it would give, various food trucks a chance. So that's what this is for. You guys will tell us, what you think of this idea of putting down crusher fines on Anderson and then adding the fence along there'll be a fence along the Corrales roadside, and then the roadside, the south end of the property where the road that goes back to the homes that are west of that property.
Do you have a public input?
I think Counselor Knight had a question real fast and then, yeah. This idea is based on what they had kind of asked for. The main difference is they had preferred to have a fence, basically turning it into two separate areas. But to make it more flexible for village use, we've chosen not to put that that fence up at this time. I did ask Steve Grohlman if he could look into a retractable fence. If there's something like that where it could, you know, possibly be in different locations that it could just be pulled across so that the growers market wouldn't have to haul in their barrels and flags and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the idea is that the growers market could still move there, but it wouldn't be, you know, just theirs. It's for village use. Yeah.
Actually, there's been some discussion about growers market there or I feel that's up to the growers market, not up to the village. Say growers market, you have to be here, you have to be there. Doug Gonzalez wants to hold it, growers market it wherever. That's up to him, not up to the village. Up to there.
No, this only calls for one. Oh, yeah. So council had asked for all of the information that we had previously been given in terms of all of the overall properties. So I included the design documents from the architects group, for lack of a better name. And then the plan that Amy Bell had presented to you back in 2024, which showed that, you know, the idea at the time with the previous administration was we would have parking at Gonzalez, at Anderson. There would be pathways connecting them. There'd be pathways around each property for people to walk. And so that's what that was for. But no, this plan calls for one entrance and exit at the south end of the property where the road kind of currently is. And I don't think DOT would go for more than one. Mm-hmm. There is a fence proposed. I'm not sure. You want vegetation? So that's what you'd like to see on the site development plan. They won't be on this property. They'll be on the rec center property, but not the Jones property, on the rec center property over by where the pool is. There is electricity already on the property. Yeah, I mean, they have electricity currently at their current location. Correct, Al?
Al Gonzalez, 679 Old Church Road. So 2026, here we are. Bonnie and I have been running this state not-for-profit business for 30 years. Okay? We don't want to go to Gonzalez Field. We don't want to get shoved all the way to the southwest corner of the Gonzalez Field. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't think there's enough room to put a left turn lane in front of the Gonzalez property. There is at the Anderson property because I measured it. I compared it to two existing ones. The growers market needs a permanent spot. Our growers market last year generated $1.5 million in agricultural sales. We vet all of our vendors. We don't want 50 vendors. We want our vendors to make money in something that is historically important to the community. The reason I initially did the sketch in 2 pieces for the Anderson property was so that I didn't have to haul stanchions out there. I'm old, I'm 70, okay? Everything gets heavy, 2,000 pounds every Saturday and Sunday. By the time I get home on Sunday, I take a nap, just like an old guy. But I'll be more than happy to answer questions. I want to be in front of the Anderson property. Correct.
So
my sketch had an 8-foot opening in the back. I had moved the property line back 25 feet to be able to compensate in case we lost property on the front to a turnout lane. I had an 8-foot entrance in the front. I had a 20-foot entrance, which was going right into the market off of that access easement, which is now 25 feet instead of 20. At the back, I had a 30-foot entrance going into the property. The purpose behind the 30-foot entrance was in the event that we put the EV charging stations in the back, a fire truck can get in there with no problems, put out an electrical fire. Correct. Well, I wasn't thinking about putting it in, but I'm compensating for losing that property, like we lost it, or we have to move the fence in the original growers market site. If you notice, some of those railroad ties were removed and we put rickety little things because DOT said you need to move that fence back.
And if you look at the drawing that Grolman did, there's fencing along the Corrales Road side, fencing along the south side. There's only one vehicle opening in that fence, and it's towards page 104. Yes, 104. It's marked B at the top. And if you look towards the western end of the property, close to the homes, it says 26-foot open for vehicles. So that the reason we chose to put the opening that far back is that if traffic starts to back up for some reason, it's not going to back up onto Corrales Road. It's going to back up down the road on the south end. But yeah, traffic will all be directed down to the western side. And then if the growers market wants to put up something to block that off, the vendors will be up towards the front of the road. All the parking will be towards the back. And then there's places for EV charging stations. There's places for the storage sheds that belong to growers market to be on the property. I mean, we do have a gate that goes through there, so. Yeah, we can look at that possibility on the site development plan for sure.
I think the details can be worked out then.
Yeah.
This is the concept to move forward.
Yeah, we had looked at it. We went a couple of times and looked at the buildings. They were all not in the greatest condition, but it was going to cost us so much to get it here. It really wasn't worth. We never went that direction. Yeah, because at one point we had talked about putting a portable on that western end of the property that could possibly turn into like a not necessarily a commercial kitchen, but a place for growers to wash their produce and things like that. And, this would leave the, keeping it open would allow for down the road, possibly getting a refrigeration unit for the growers market. They've mentioned, if growers had a place to store, cold storage, there's so much more they could do at the market. Just for pedestrian. I believe that Grolman has presented it kind of in the middle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe having, because the original proposal showed 2 vehicle openings on that southern fence line, but maybe we could have one have a gate instead of have one just be open all the time and the other one have a gate, so that during the growers market, we don't want people driving in to where the vendors are, but perhaps the vendors want to be able to drive in when they're setting up. So, you know, that's something else we could look at for the site development plan.
I'm sorry? Well, planning and zoning has a copy. Fahey had a copy. The administrator's office had a copy. That's it.
Yep.
That's why I think that, you avoid this sort of P and Z, L's got a copy to put it before council and say, we're considering this. We're not considering L's plan or Joe's plan or anybody else's plan, but we're considering it, using it for parking lot, and it can be used for the. Yeah, no, that's why we want to keep it open. That's the purpose of this initial proposal. Motion is exactly what we need now.
Yeah. Yeah. We do. Anything going off of Corrales Road has to have permission. It has to have a permit. Right. Did we have public comment?
We have some public comment, maybe. Why don't we?
Pat McClendon, Corrales. I think that Bonnie and Al have done a terrific service. And I think we're tonight confused between, are we building a parking lot? Or are we building a growers market? I mean, that seems to be the question. Al could be in any parking lot that he wants. The largest growers market in the area is Robinson Park, grass area in Albuquerque. They have over 1,000 vendors. Al knows more about it surely than I do. But I think that if we're looking at this as a parking lot, I'd like to address some issues that I think are unresolved. First is the parking and code compliance. The plan does not show a use, a parking layout, or a parking count. Without that information, there's no way to determine whether the site can realistically support activities planned for this property. We are seeing parking impacts spill into the nearby residential and commercial areas and should not magnify this problem. Second is public safety. The proposal does not clearly address site lighting or nighttime use or the standard fire department turnaround requirements for emergency access. These are important safety and liability concerns. Third is the appearance of this highly visible gateway property. The proposed 1,000 feet of wire fencing along Corrales Road and Martinez Road, combined with the extensive crusher fine storage areas, creates an appearance more consistent with a storage or an impound yard than a civic property reflecting the rural character of Corrales. There is also no landscape buffering proposed, despite an estimated deficit of approximately 53 trees required for ordinance compliance. Before spending well over $300,000, and all of these things that we're adding tonight are not included in that original estimate, such as EV chargers. Before spending over 300,000 on these improvements, I believe the village should complete a comprehensive conceptual plan for all the village-owned properties so that the long-term parking, event use, circulation, and community character are addressed together rather than through piecemeal decisions. I ask council to reject this process and require a more complete planning review before moving forward. If Al can choose the final result, he can place his market wherever they choose. Certainly, we need a generic parking lot. I just worry about the one that is being proposed with 1,000 feet of fencing. Thank you.
I think the issue has been kicked around for a while. And we've had a couple comprehensive plans, whether it's done by Bell or by the architect group. And each group has labeled it as a parking lot. Call it what it is. And, question in my mind is, well, what else are we going to use land for? I mean, if in the Bell says parking lot, the architects group said parking lot. And so we want to move on with this type of conceptual parking lot. It doesn't cost $300,000. I think that it costs like $100,000 for the gravel and the labor would be done by public works. Steve Roman hasn't charged a cent for this yet because he just said, I'm just going to do a sketch. And you want me to do the site development plan, that's what I'm going to charge you at. And so I think the details of that need to be looked at.
And the site development plan estimate is about $32,000.
We're starting to talk with architects to help the village go through this process. So we're actively working on getting on-site architects. That's in our site.
Actually, we met with Bianca Borg last week and asked her about, how do we move forward with a master plan for the commercial core and the municipal properties as a unit. And she said she would recommend hiring an engineering firm with a planning department. So, because you have to have an engineer to be able to look at traffic and flows. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. But we need one that can do both for us. And she said part of our membership with the COG is we can piggyback off of their contracts that they have with engineering firms, design firms. So she's going to send over a list of places that have already been vetted, already gone through their RFP process. We can piggyback off that contract, but we're also coming up on the end of the fiscal year. So we're going to have to wait until the new fiscal year to be able to get, we can start looking at people, but the actual work is going to have to wait for the new fiscal year.
Question two is, how to pick architect. You do an RFP, you talk to architects as far as who would be the architect, your firm, architects to be this person. And that's why we're talking to some architects to give us some direction for RFP wise, where should we go? Do we go to CS? Do we go to procurement? We're mulling these over for the best way to go. That could be put in site development.
Yeah. Yeah. Councilman.
Councilman. Yeah. Talking about like they're clearing doors and the side of the parking lot.
That's what this is based off of. Yeah. Yeah, the main thing that is different is the fencing, dividing it into two properties. That was, you know, and maybe there's some other ways we could, you know, make that a thing without, you know, because we still need to be able to use the entire thing for an event like the Harvest Festival. But you know, we just need some flexibility. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And also the drawing where it says 1/2 inch rebar pipe, that's not for the fencing. That's just something that is in existence already on the property. So the fencing that is proposed by Grolman was a wire fencing, kind of like what's on the corner of Meadowlark, where it's the posts and then just some simple wire. But that was just an idea to start with, to get a base of, you know, we could have something like what currently exists on the growers market lot, or, you know, what have you. But there's some options. This is all just ideas and getting your feedback on whether you want to proceed with a site development plan that would then go to P and Z for approval.
Actually, you know, parking is a big issue. We're talking about no parking ordinances coming before it. And Fourth of July parade, Harvard Festival, people park all over. I think with the parking, designated parking lot, there'd be a place to park, and people can park there instead of parking in the park. I'm glad that's sort of a new rationale for having parking lot there. So yeah, it should be buffered. I agree. Parking lot here. Yeah. But parking areas where people can park, you know, where they're busy, businesses, where they're participating in parades and those types of activities.
And the reason this isn't more detailed is because we don't want to circumvent P and Z. So this is just, you're saying, yes, move forward with a site development plan, and then that gets approved by P and Z. And then that way, if a member of the public doesn't like it and they want to appeal, you guys haven't approved anything ahead of time. Whereas if we start making all of these details and you're like, we want this, we want this, we want this, and then a member of the public comes to you and says, we want to appeal this, and you're like, but we already decided this. We're kind of taking that process away from the residents. Sorry, Council. Well, that's part of this process. If you decide you want to wait until we have that design, then you tell us, don't proceed with this right now. And we put this on ice. That's the purpose of this discussion tonight. The next step is we start working with the planner and the architect, the engineer, whatever we decide to hire to do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. No, we're looking at probably mid-August before any spending can start, because even though the fiscal year starts July 1, we have to wait for final budget to get approved by the state. So we're looking at, you know, mid-August before we start actual spending. Well, no, they're one. So she started out as groundworks and then became, yeah. Right. No, she's going to send us the list now, and then we can start going through the process of vetting them, but we can't actually start anything with them until a couple of months. Well, that's the kind of thing we can't go into detail on this plan because those are things that have to be part of the site development plan. So this is what we'll look into once the site development plan gets going. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And actually, there can't be an official village parking lot because we need a site development plan to designate the area a parking lot. I mean, it's advertised for rental, but that's just parking and rec made out of rental fees. But it's not a designated for the parking lot. So only you get a parking lot, this village parking lot, it's got to go to the site development plan. You know that.
No, not yet. We're hoping that it'll be able to be on the July planning and zoning meeting for approval. They do take a little while. Yeah. I'm sure anything is possible if we have enough money to pay them overtime.
You have a motion?
I don't think we can make a motion because we have it down as just discussion. So, but it sounds like council wants us to move forward with the site development plan and okay. Yeah.
Well, I think it serves the purpose of putting it out there, having discussion, having public input, and which is different. We are moving forward, even though we're not building buildings or parking lots. I think the process is changing anyway. Getting more transparent. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons why we want to bring in a professional company that would be an engineering firm because they could do those kinds of public input meetings to get ideas during the planning process before we even get to the site development plan part. So yeah, so that will definitely happen for the master plan for municipal buildings, and then we're also talking about doing one for the commercial corridor as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you. And moving right along. Announcements, future agenda. Number 1, liquor license hearing, 5:30 on the 19th. For the Meadow Life property. The 2, approval of Main Street agreement, both on the state. That'll be our next meeting, 26th. Draft no parking ordinance, we're actively working on that. Approval of resolutions for changes to PRA plans for police and fire employees. That'll be the first meeting in June. Uniform traffic ordinance changes, first meeting next council meeting.
Yep, should be ready next council meeting.
And draft noise ordinance, consultant right now.
Yep, it's moving through their processes. And then it's not on here yet because we haven't confirmed with everybody, but we did get an appeal filed on a planning and zoning decision for a site development plan. So we do need to hold that. And we're asking if council is available on June 2nd. It's a Tuesday night at 6 p.m. for that appeal hearing.
Okay, writing any item? Members can approve, so thank you very much. Yeah, you can do it.